Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal-mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba hudahu ila yawmiddin, thumma amma ba'd. Okay, inshallah ta'ala, welcome. We're just going to get right into it, bidnillahi jalla jalaluh. Starting with our topic of Aqeedah, or the issues dealing with faith. And we were talking about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And see. Hold on.
Is a process. It isn't just like.
I'm sorry, is there a question? Don't know what that was. Heard something. Well, can you guys hear me first of all? Can you hear me?
He's basically excited, and they went through this.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And no, I'm sorry. As you can see,
well, I guess you can hear me then. Alhamdulillah. Let's just try to get this situated. Okay, here we go. That's where I messed up. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about something that is, the relevance to it might not be very apparent to some of us because of our experiences throughout Islam. We might not have met with these certain aspects dealing with the names and attributes of Allah. But okay, we have to talk about denying the names of Allah. And this means linguistically, it means to deviate. In the word that, talking about ilhad, right? The word that's used to talk about denying the name of Allah, it's a word that means to deviate from something, right? Or deviate from what that is intended, or to lean away from and go to that which is wrong, right? So that is the word ilhad. So when we talk about the word ilhad, we're talking about rejecting or denying the names of Allah. An example of this is this word and stuff like that, meaning that, the word that is used, ilhad. Example of the linguistic meaning of this word. When we use ilhad, when we talk about lahad, right? The lahad is something that you see in a grave. Now, this is not something that is like, obligatory in Islam, but in most Islamic graves, when they're dug, you go down, you dig down, right? And then you dig a notch, or how do you say this? It's almost like an L shape, right? So you go down, and then you go to the side, and that is where the body is placed. Now, you can also, it is permissible to just dig down without the L shape, but it is something that is considered a common practice to when we do dig graves, to dig in the L shape. Okay, but that little the leg or the feet, I guess you could say, of that hole that is dug for the grave is called a lahad. So that is kind of giving you the example, or making you understand what it means when we talk about ilhad, or denying or rejecting the name of Allah, the word that is used, which means to go away from or to deviate from that which is common. Okay, so what does it mean as a terminology? Okay, it talks about to go away from or lean away from the meaning of his names and attributes. So someone who rejects and decides to turn away from that which is expected and entailed in the names and attributes of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Okay, so there are different categories in this, and they're broken down into three categories. The first category is a polytheist, and what they do is they place the creation on the same level as the creator, right? The people who associate partners with Allah, they place the creation and the creator on the same level, such as calling their idols names or derivative of the names of Allah. They give those names to their idols. Like, for example, the pagan Arabs had a god that they would worship called Uzza, right? And that name is a derivative from the name Al-Aziz, you know, the great. And there's a lot of examples of that. Like, for example, the name Lat as well, which is another name for their deity, which is from the word Allah. Okay, so that's what the polytheists do. They give the creation, or they put the creation on the same level as Allah by imitation. You know, giving the things that are created names similar to that of Allah, as to say that they're on the same footing. Okay. Another category is those who liken God to his creation. So now it's not putting them on the same level. It is liken. Okay, the first example is bringing the creation up to the level of Allah. Now in this example is bringing Allah down to the level of the creation. So those who liken God to his creation do to this, or they do this by questioning the nature of Allah's names and attributes, right? His characteristics. Okay, for example, we know that Allah is a Samir. Allah is all hearing. So they say, well, you know, if in order for a person to hear or anything to hear, they have to have like eardrums and an ear canal that connects to the brain, sends signal to, you know, they go into so deep into it, and by doing that, they say, well, then that means Allah has all of these things as well, because all of these things are necessary in order for one to hear. So they lower Allah to that of his creation by comparing the creation to Allah and saying that Allah's attributes must be like the attributes of his creation. All right, so those one category. And by doing that, they are rejecting and they're denying and they're going away from that which is required when it comes to the names and attribute of Allah. Now, the last category is those who negate the names and attributes of Allah. And there are two types, right? There are those people who they affirm the names themselves, but they negate the meaning entailed in those names. Okay, so they say Ar-Rahman. Yes, Allah is Ar-Rahman. But when we call Allah Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, we understand that that means that Allah has mercy with him. Allah shows mercy, right? But they say, no, it's a name, but the attribute or what's entailed in that name, we don't affirm it. Okay, so basically it's a name without any value, which is what a lot of us do. And when I'm talking about us, I'm talking about mankind. We do when we name our children, right? The people that aren't Muslim, when they name their children, they put 2-3 names together or name them from a card that they like or whatever the situation may be, and that name is only something that they think sounds good. So this name sounds good to me, or I like this word, and they don't think about the meaning of what it entails, like giving their child a name that will have a positive impact due to the characteristics that name entails, like bravery, smarts, chastity, and things like that. They don't think about those types of thing. A lot of people anymore, anyway, they don't think of that. So when we talk about these individuals, when it comes to the names of Allah, they say, yes, there's a name, but it doesn't entail anything, it has no meaning. to it, right? So that's one category of the people who negate or outright reject the names of Allah. And the other category are those who they blatantly negate the names of Allah and their meaning. So Allah is not Ar-Rahman, nor does he have Rahmah with him, nor does he have mercy. So Allah is not the most merciful, nor does he have mercy with him. Allah is not As-Sami', he's not the all-hearing, nor does he hear. Like so they reject the name and that which it entails, as opposed to the other group, which only rejects what it entails, right? The meaning behind the names, or they affirm the names. And this is actually due to the people that are there's a lot of overlapping between some of these groups and things like that, because the people who reject the names of Allah, they only went to that extreme after comparing Allah to his creation, right? They say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be Ar-Rahman. He cannot be the most merciful, because the most merciful entails that he shows mercy, and mercy has something to do with the softening of the heart to the person that individual wants to show mercy to. And that might be a sign of, they might say or interpret that as a sign of weakness, and Allah is free from weakness, so we can attribute these things to Allah. And all of this is rhetoric and philosophical nonsense, right? And this is one of the things that have entered into the religion, which Allah and his messenger and the companions and those who follow them in their understanding are free of, because they never understood the names and attributes of Allah in this way. Rather, they understood the names of Allah by knowing that the names of Allah have meanings that only apply to Allah, and they apply to Allah in the most perfect of sense. And we don't go into the how, right? We don't try to rationalize the how of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes, right? Like Imam Malik says, Al-istiwa ma'loom. Al-istiwa ma'loom. Wal-kayf majhool. وَمَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا مُبْتَدِعٍ فَأُخْرِجُوا. So Imam Malik was asked by a person who said that Allah is above his throne, right? He went to Imam Malik, he said, Allah is above his throne. How is he above his throne? So Imam Malik, in his class, he stopped his class and he said, the word istiwa, the word that's used to mean that he ascended above his throne is known. We know this word. It's an Arabic word. We know what it entails, what it means. But the how of it is unknown. We don't know how that word applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just know that it's an ascension. How did Allah ascend? We can't say, well, he flapped wings or anything like that. We don't know the how of it. But we understand the meaning of ascension. And then he said, I don't see you except that you are a person of deviance. And then he commanded and ordered that this person be removed from his class. Okay, so that was Imam Malik, rahmatullahi alayh. Okay, so with that, we've covered that now. And I do believe after that, we're going to start going into the names. That's the last thing we're going to cover. Bidnillahi Jalla Jalalu. So now we're going to move on to the next subject. Save that. Okay. This also went all the way to the beginning for some reason. I don't know why they both did that. All right. Shurut Zakat. Okay. Okay, so we finished with the zakat dealing with camel. So now we're going to cover the zakat dealing with sheep Or did we cover that? I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter because we're gonna cover that real quick, or at least the end of that, I do believe. No, we didn't cover that. So, okay, so here we go. This is zakat dealing with sheep. Okay, so even if we covered it, this will be a good review. So it says أربعون قل نصاب الغنم فيهن شاة بنت حول فاعلمي ومئة إحدى وعشرون بها شاتان يا صاحي فكن متبها ومئتان منه ثم واحدة ثلاثة من الشياه الواجدة. Okay, so here the Sheikh is telling us that the nisab, or the beginning, or the minimum that you need to have zakat for your sheep is 40. And for every 40, you give one sheep. And the sheep is a 2-year-old sheep, right? And then the next amount is 120. For 120 sheep, you give 2 sheep. And then for 200, you give 3 sheep. Then it says, وَأَرْبَعٌ فِي أَرْبَعٍ مِنَ الْمِئَاتِ ثُمَّ لِكُلِّ مِئَةٍ تَزِيدُ شَاء. So this is saying that after the number gets to 400, then for every 100 after 400, you give a sheep, right? So it looks like this. So we have 400 4 sheep, and then every 100 after that, a sheep. So that's 4 sheep. So now the Sheikh then goes on to say, وَفِي الثَّلَاثِينَ نِسَابُ الْبَقَرِ تَبِيعٌ أَوْ تَبِيعَةٌ فَقَرَرٌ. So here the Sheikh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. In order to get the rhyming scheme, I said the rhyming scheme wrong. It says, وَفِي الثَّلَاثِينَ نِسَابُ الْبَقَرِ تَبِيعٌ أَوْ تَبِيعَةٌ فَقَرِّرِ. Okay, there you go. All right, so here the Sheikh is letting us know that the minimum amount needed for zakat on your cow is 30. So you have 30 cow, you need to give zakat. And that zakat is 1 2-year-old, either male or female cow. So either what would be a bull or a cow, right? And then the Shaykh goes on to say, وَأَرْبَعِينَ قُلْ مُسِنٌّ وَمَتَى زَادَ فَكُنْ فِيهِ الْحِسَابِ مُثْبِتًا. So the next amount that changes the obligation, the number of obligated that need to be given for zakat is 60. I'm sorry, 40. Yeah, arba'in. So 40, once you reach 40 cows, then you have to give 1 3-year-old camel, 1 3-year-old cow for zakat. And then the Sheikh, he says, any amount after that, then you have to give a fraction, right? And that's just given in what do you call it again? Not well, money, yes. So you'll pay that in money. Obviously, you won't divide a cow, so you could pay the remaining balance for the zakat. No, you won't do that. So you will give it in money. Okay, so this is what we have then for the zakat of the cow, which is 30 cows, 1 2-year-old, either male or female, right? And then we have 40 cows, 1 3-year-old cow, and that's a male or female as well. And then between 40 to 60, that means 41, 42, all the way to 60, it is a fraction. So you might have 1 3-year-old cow plus an eighth, for example, right? And that eighth will be calculated the value of that which will be calculated. And this idea is actually not agreed upon by all the scholars. Some scholars, they don't do the fraction thing. They just wait for the next number to come, which is 60, and they give something, a whole animal for that amount. So with that, we're done for today. Inshallah ta'ala. Are there any questions?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How you doing, Sheikh Hanif? How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. How you doing?
Good, alhamdulillah. So I was asking earlier, I kind of came a little late. I was talking with my father about something.
Mm-hmm.
But are these statements, these Muslims making these statements about, this was from the earlier part, not the fiqh of sheep. The Muslims making these statements, or is this a general statement of kuffar about denying the names of Allah?
These are people that claim to be Muslim. Of course, these statements, they expel someone from the fold of Islam, no doubt. And this is the dangers of delving into philosophical arguments and questions and things like that, because it will cause you to have ideas that have no Islamic basis, and you build a system of belief on that. And in doing so, you've taken something other than Islam as your fundamental way of belief.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was Muslims or not. So, and there was also a question in the chat that was mentioned. I made my mention in the chat for a question. There was another one.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I didn't even know that somebody.
I sent the first one that said, "Are these Muslims saying this, or the general statement of kuffar?" That was my first question.
Okay, that was your and that's answered, so that's good. All right, and its ascension is implying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically moves from a station to the next. Okay, when we talk about ascension, we know that it is going up, right? How of it, like moving from one place to a next and all these stuff, we don't know. We understand the term ascension, meaning that, something going up, right? But the how of it, because to imply that, that Allah is moving from one place to another. I mean, what is that place that he's moving from? And what is that place that he's moving to? All that is information that we have no knowledge of, right? But Allah does say that he ascends, so we have to believe that he ascends. He says it more than once in the Quran. So ascension is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has affirmed for himself. And we do know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the heavens, right? And when he's outside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is separate from his creation. So he's not part of his creation, he's separate from it. So the reality of what that entails for him, we don't know. We can't state what that would be, right? Because we have no idea how that would play out for him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I guess those are the two questions. Okay.
One more question. I know we got short on time. When it comes out to the zakat amount for...
Hello?
I'm sorry, it went muted. Is this in reference to a person's wealth? So this is part of a person's wealth to have a certain amount of cows or sheep, and they have to pay this much on the they have to pay out this much in reference to animals.
Yeah.
So would that be equated to nowadays if you own like a bunch of cars or something like that, or a bunch of apartment buildings or houses? Because wealth back kind of it's different.
Yeah, that's different. All of those things will be considered as you'll do the value of it. So it goes back to zakatul mal, right? Which is or what's known as zakat currency and stuff like that, as opposed to animals. The animals is specific. Is a specific thing. It might not apply to everybody nowadays, especially with that amount, like the 30 cows and things like that. I mean, some people don't even have 10, that are farmers and things like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
I
see. Okay, jazakumullah khairan.
Well, yeah, cool. Okay, I guess that's the last question. So with that being said, and inshallah, we're going to have class tomorrow. I'm going to try my best to make sure we have class tomorrow. So I say subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi